World War I no doubt changes the world at all. It caused the deaths of 16 million people, wounding millions of others, destroying 4 big empires and leaving their places to new countries for 4 years, between 1914 and 1918. First World War changes the world's geopolitical, economic, historical and technological balances. Therefore, it is on a table and significant milestone in the history of humanity. I will not talk about the boring statistics or chronological events. Today our topic is how that war started and why 60 million people, almost all countries in Eurasia and America, decided to join that war. For sure, there were many causes such as imperialism, mutual defense allies which caused that war became total war, militarism and so on, but the immediate reason was different. The suicide of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by Gavrilo Princip. That suicide started World War I. Gavrilo Princip indirectly caused millions of deaths, destroying buildings and changing the world. Who was that guy and why did he choose Franz Ferdinand and kill? The story of that suicide. Gavrilo Princip was born on 25 July 1894 in the remote hamlet of Oblija, near Bosnia-Hersogovina. He was the second of 9 children of his parents. 6 of them died when they were infants. His family was Serb, and they came from Montenegro in 18th century to Bosnia. Their occupation was farmer, and Gavrilo's parents were very poor. Gavrilo's father Petar fought in Herzegovina uprising against Ottoman Empire. Petar didn't want to let Gavrilo attend primary school. Then, because of Jovan's insistence, elder brother of Gavrilo, Petar let him. Gavrilo was a successful student, so at age 13, Princip moved to Sarajevo, where he was enrolled in merchant school. Jovan paid his tuition fees by portership. At that time, Bosnia was occupied by Austro-Hungarian Empire. Like other Slavic states, Bosnia also wanted to be independent. In 1911, Gavrilo Princip joined Young Bosnia. This society consisted of 3 major Bosnian ethnic groups. They believed that the Kingdom of Serbia, which was a free part of Soul Slavs, was obligated to unify Southern Slavic peoples. On 18 February 1912, Princip participated in demonstration against authority in Sarajevo. Police beat Gavrilo during protests. At school, Princip forced other students to come to new demonstrations. Therefore, in 1912, Princip was expelled from school and decided to go to Belgrade. He lived in a difficult condition. In October of that year, war broke out between the Balkan states and Ottoman Empire. Princip went to recruitment offices in different places, but he was rejected because of being too small and weak. Some people believe this also motivated him to do something exceptionally brave. In early 1914, while Princip was in Belgrade, his friends showed him the announcement of Archduke Franz Ferdinand visiting Bosnia in June. Gavrilo decided to make a group of assassins and attack Archduke during his official visit to Sarajevo. He could convince his 2 friends to join him. The next step was to find a weapon. For that, Gavrilo asked his friend, Julaga Bukovac, a veteran of Balkan Wars. Bukovac introduced them to Milan Ziganovic, another veteran of Balkan Wars. Ziganovic was also a member of Black Hand, a secretive, ultranationalist Serbian group. They obtained weapons from another member of that group, Tankušić. On 27 May 1914, Ziganovic supplied them with 5 rolling pistols, 6 grenades and poisons. They were trained in how to use weapons by Ziganovic. Before leaving Serbia, Princip recruited 3 more people to join them. Before going to assassination day, let's talk about who was Franz Ferdinand. Franz Ferdinand was the eldest son of Archduke Karl Ludwig of Austria, the younger brother of Emperor Franz Joseph I. His courtship of Sofia Chotek, a lady-in-waiting, caused conflict within the imperial household. Their morganatic marriage was only allowed in 1900 after he renounced his destined right to the throne. This Franz Ferdinand held significant influence over the military, and in 1913 he was appointed Inspector General of the Austro-Hungarian Armed Force. As you see, Franz Ferdinand had an important place in military service and the emperor's family in Austro-Hungarian Empire. 28 June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sofia arrived in Sarajevo by train before 10 am. Their car was the 3rd car of 6-car motorcade heading towards Sarajevo town hall. Princip and 5 other assassins were positioned along the upper quay to attack Archduke. The first conspirator who saw the motorcade was Muhammad Mehmet Pasha. He stood nearby Austro-Hungarian, but when the motorcade approached him, he gave up, lost his nerve and left them pass. The next conspirator was 19-year-old student Nedeljko Kavrinović. He stood near Central Police Station. Kavrinović hurled a hand grenade at Archduke's car, but the driver saw a flying bomb and accelerated. So after 10-second delay, bomb exploded on the 4th car, which came right after Franz Ferdinand's car. 2 of occupants were seriously wounded. After Kavrinović failed, motorcade sped up. Gavrilo Princip and others assassinated failed too. After the Archduke gave his scheduled speech at town hall, he decided to visit the victims of Kavrinovic's grand attack at the Sarajevo hospital. General Oskar Potiorek decided that the royal car should travel straight along the Applecrane to the hospital to avoid the city center. However, Potiorek forgot to inform the driver, a Czech named Leopold Loschka, about his decision. On the way to the hospital, Loschka, following the original path, turned onto a side street where Princip had positioned himself in front of a local delicatessen. After the governor shouted at him, Loschka stopped in front of a shop and began to reverse. As he did so, the engine stopped and the chairs locked. Princip stepped forward, drew a Browning semi-automatic pistol, and at point-blank range fired twice into the car, first hitting the Archduke in the neck and then hitting the Duchess in the abdomen. They both died shortly after. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand made an excuse caused for Austro-Hungarian Empire to attack Serbia and declare a war. Before Princip could fire for the third time, the pistol was wrested from his hand and he was pushed to the ground. He managed to swallow a capsule of cyanide, which failed to kill him. Gavrilo Princip said in courtroom, "I am a Yugoslav nationalist, aiming for the unification of all Yugoslavs, and I don't care what form of state, but it must be free from Austria." The plan was to unite all South-Slavs. It was understood that Serbia, as a free part of South-Slavs, had the moral duty to help in unification. To use the South-Slav as the Piedmont was to Italy. In my opinion, every Serb, Croat and Sloven should be an enemy of Austria. Princip was 19 years old at that time and too young to be executed, as he was 27 days shy of the 20-year minimum age limit required by Habsburg law. On Thursday, 28 October 1914, the court found Princip guilty of murder and high treason. He received the maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Princip was chained to a wall in solitary confinement at a small fortress in Terezin, where he lived in harsh conditions and suffered from tuberculosis. The disease ate away his bones so badly that his right arm had to be amputated. In January 1916, Princip unsuccessfully attempted to hang himself with a towel. From February to June 1916, Princip met with Martin Pappenheim, a psychiatrist in the Austro-Hungarian army, 4 times. Pappenheim wrote that Princip refused to accept responsibility for the consequences of his actions, and that he claimed to believe the World War was bound to happen regardless, and that he cannot himself responsible for the catastrophe. Gavrilo Princip died on 28 April 1918, 3 years and 10 months after the assassination. At the time of his death, weakened by malnutrition and disease, he weighed around 40 kilograms. Gavrilo Princip wrote on the walls of his cell shortly before his death, "Our shadows will walk through Vienna, wander the court, frighten their lords." Thanks for listening to me. If you like my video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I need your comments to improve my video quality. You can leave comments.